Hello everyone, in this tutorial we will see how can we implement Django Rest Auth in our Django Rest Framework project in order to handle user registration and authentication tasks. So Django Rest Auth is very handy and powerful for handling user tasks like registration, activation, authentication, login, logout, change password, retrieve user information, edit user or update user information, plus social media authentication. Because it provides a bunch of endpoints that we can use through our front end to perform all user processes or tasks. So let's start by installing the Django Rest Auth, and here is the documentation. I'll leave a link in the description. It's very easy to read, easy to implement and to use. So let's go to installation, and to install it we're going to use pip. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to open the project, the Django project, in VS Code, and inside here, first thing first, I'm going to activate the virtual environment. So dot space dot forward slash and then the virtual environment folder, which is vm, then scripts. If you are on Mac, replace script with bin, bin, and forward slash activate. And as you see here, we have vm between parentheses, which means our virtual environment is activated. Now we can install the Django Rest Auth. And after that, we need to do the necessary configurations in our settings and urls.py in order to be able to use the Django Rest Auth. So I'm going to go back to the documentation. Inside here, the second step is to add the REST Framework Auth token and REST Auth to the installed app. So we're going to do that. And we go to the installed app here, apps, and then we paste these two applications, and then we save. And after that, we need to add the endpoint or the main endpoint for the Django Rest Auth into our URL patterns inside urls.py. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to urls.py. Inside here, I'm going to add the REST Auth. So I'm going to convert this into normal path. This is a path here, and that's it for the URLs. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to go back to the documentation. And because I installed two new applications here in the installed apps, I need to run the migrations. So let's do that. Just typing python manage.py migrate, and we'll see that 3 migrations happened. The auth token, which is, we will see what is token in a bit. So let's head back to the documentations and see what we need to add. After that, in order to perform registration, like user registration, we need to use or to install Django Auth, okay, all auth. And after that, we need to add some extra application to the installed apps. So let's do that. We need to install Django all auth first. So let's do it. Pip install Django all auth. And let's leave this to install and go back to the documentation. We need to add these applications plus the site ID to our settings. So I'm gonna just copy them and then go to the settings.py. Okay, and add these apps here. And then I'm gonna add down here the site ID equals 1, and then I'm going to save it, and let's go back to the documentations and see here, in order to perform a registration we need to add an endpoint for the REST Auth, which is REST Auth registrations. So I'm going to copy this. We already have the REST Auth, so what we need to do is add the REST Auth registration. So I'm going to go back to urls.py and I'm going to add it below here. I'm going to convert this to path. You can keep it as URLs, it will work as well. I just want to keep things neat here and save it. And then for social authentications like login with Facebook, with Twitter or GitHub or other social media platforms, we need to install some extra applications here and also add some extra endpoints, but we're not going to talk about this in this tutorial. We will leave this to future tutorials, and in this tutorial we will stick into main Django Rest Auth registrations and authentications. So after doing this, I think we are ready to migrate again, because we added some extra apps, and then we will test. So let's do that. So inside here we'll clear this, and then we will run the migrate. And it's asking me here, says no module REST Auth Django, and that's because I forgot to add a comma here. So I'm gonna add it, save, and then run the migrate, and it should work. And you see here all migration have been applied. Now we can run the server and just try the new endpoints that we added from Django Rest Auth. So I'm just going to run the server. And now that the server is running, I'm going to go to the browser and let's go to the localhost. As you see here, I have REST Auth and REST Auth registration. So if I go to REST Auth, as you see, if I go to REST Auth, all these endpoints are available for me. And as you see here, we have password reset and what password reset confirm. And we have the login, logout, user, and password change and registration. So we need to try first the registration, and we use that to sign up a new user into our API. So let's use that. So we're gonna add here registration, and as you see, this will allow me to add a new user here by adding the username, email, password 1 and password 2. And if you look at the documentations and go to API endpoints, as you see here, for the, if we scroll down to the registrations, as you see here, it says it's a post request to this endpoint, which is REST Auth registration, and this post request should include a username, password 1, password 2, and email address. Password 2 is a confirmed password for the password 1. So password 1, password 2 must match. So if we go to the endpoint and we add a username, like for example Mark, and we'll choose the email address Mark at my API, and we'll choose a password, for example, and we confirm the password, and then we hit the post button. And now the server is processing, and it gave me an error saying no connection could be made because the target machine actively refused it. Don't worry about this error. I think this error is, we're getting this error because we're performing it from the browser, but in a real life scenario you're going to be performing this from your front end framework, and you won't get this error definitely. So in order to confirm that the registration is done, let's go to the admin panel. So I'm going to go here to the admin and then login, admin, and then I'll provide the password. And if you look to the admin panel now, you can see some changes here happening. And one of the changes, or the new fields that we see here, is the tokens. And what is that basically? Tokens are like unique keys that get associated to users when they sign up. So when a user signs up or registers in our API, a unique key gets generated and allocated to that user. So we can use this unique key or token to authenticate the user while performing requests to the API. And if we look to users here, we can see that I managed to register a new user with the name Mark, and if I click on it, I can add or edit information here about this user. And if I go back to tokens, I can see that I have a token here, a key which is linked to Mark. Okay, so this is the whole registration process that you need to do in order to register a new user in our API. It's simple and easy to implement. So now that we saw the registration, let's check the other endpoints. So we'll go back to Rest Auth, and we go to, for example, login. Okay, so if we do login, we can see that this form here asks me to enter username, which is, for example, Mark, that we registered, and I can enter the password. And then I click post. I didn't have to provide the email. So as you see, the API returns the token key after we perform the login. So in your front end, you ask the user, for example, to provide the username, password, then you perform a post request to the API, and the API returns a key, which is the token key, and then you should save this key in your front end, and whenever this user perform a request to the API, you need to implement or include this key in the request header as an authentication header in order to authenticate the user if necessary. And to log out, I can simply perform a logout by using the logout endpoint, by typing logout here, and then perform a request. And as you see here, I have this form. If I perform a post to the logout, you see that I'm logged out now. So as you see, guys, Django Rest Auth made it very easy for us to handle user registration and authentication through our API. And it's also pretty easy to do this through our front end if you're using Angular, React.js, or normal JavaScript. So if you check the endpoints here, so we use the login, logout, and we use the registrations, the registration request. The rest of the requests we're gonna see or we're gonna try in future tutorials to be able to use all the functionality of Django Rest Auth and take advantage of it in real applications. So for example, to reset the password, we need to perform a post request to this endpoint here and provide the email. And then the API will send a link to this email. And the link includes a unique ID and a token within it. And in our front end, we need to configure the view or the page to extract the UID and token, and then provide password, and then perform a post request to this endpoint. And if we need to change the password, we simply need to perform a post request to this endpoint here, providing the new password and confirming the new password plus the old password. And for the REST Auth user, this will allow us to perform a get, which will bring or fetch the data about users, or update the data of specific user, or even perform a partial update using a patch request to a specific user. Okay, and I'm planning to cover most of this, if not all, in future tutorials. So that's it, guys, for this tutorial. Hope you learned something new, and if so, please hit the like button. That helps the channel. And if you're looking forward for more content like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. And until the next one.